Okay, for the function g whose graph is given, we want to state the following. So for part A, it says to find the limit as x is approaching positive infinity of the function. So we want to figure out, okay, where is x going towards positive infinity? So if we look at this graph here, this graph starts to oscillate and then it kind of levels off at this value here, which is located at 2. So therefore, the first one is approaching 2. Okay, now we want to find the limit as x is approaching negative infinity of g of x. So now we want to approach negative infinity. So we can see here as the function is going towards negative infinity over on this side, then what value is this approaching? So here the function is going towards negative infinity and leveling off at what number? Well, that's leveling off at negative 2. So therefore this answer is negative 2. Part C, the limit as x is approaching 3 of the function g of x. So that means that we are approaching 3, so there is the value of 3. That means that if it's approaching 3, it's got to be able to approach it from the left and from the right. So from the left, you can see that it's approaching what values, and from the right, it's approaching positive infinity. So therefore, it's approaching positive infinity. So now let's take a look at part D, where the limit is as x is approaching 0 of g of x. Well, that means that it's got to approach 0 from the left and from the right. So as it is approaching 0 from the left and from the right, then it's approaching negative infinity. Now let's find the limit as x is approaching negative 2 from the right. So as x is approaching negative 2 from the right, so here is negative 2. And as we are approaching negative 2 from the right, then it's going towards negative infinity. So the answer is negative infinity. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to find the equations of the asymptotes. So let's first take a look at the vertical asymptotes. So we can see here that we have a vertical asymptote that's going through negative 2. So we have x, which is equal to negative 2. And then we have another vertical asymptote that's going through 0. So we have x, which is equal to 0. And then we have another vertical asymptote that's going through 3 here. So there is our vertical asymptote at x is equal to 3. And now where are the horizontal asymptotes? Okay, so the horizontal asymptotes, let's go ahead and do that. So we can see here that it levels off here at 2. So that means that here we have a horizontal asymptote at y is equal to 2. And then we also have one down here going towards here, which is y is equal to negative 2.